Today, we're taking a look at these, the TLS Vega Cinema Primes, a 10 lens set of full frame primes wanting to combine modern mechanics with sharp but characterful optics. Let's check them out. There are now so many full frame cinema prime lenses on the market, but the set we're looking at today is a little bit different. For those of you who don't know who TLS or True Lens Services are, they are one of the cinema industry's leading lens servicing and converting companies. They have a fantastic reputation for their lens rehousing, and this is no different with the Vegas. Physically, the lenses feel incredibly well put together. They are really solid and decently compact given their image circle. The 300-degree focus rotation and iris rotations are fast and smooth with an excellent feel to them, partly due to the solid stainless steel stops on both the iris and focus movements. They all have pretty decent close focuses as well, which you can see for each focal length in this chart here. Gear placement for iris and focus is consistent across the full 10 lens set, so swapping lenses is easy when using a follow focus system. 7 lenses are available currently, which is what we have with us here. But the full 10 lens set will consist of a 20, 24, 28, 35, 50, 58, 85, 105, 135 and 200mm, all of which have a maximum aperture of t1.5 apart from the 20, 135 and 200mm which are t2. Dimensions and weights are pretty consistent across the different focal lengths, and they all feature a 110mm front diameter, which will make swapping between lenses while using a matte box much faster. They are decently sized primes, definitely not as large as some of the other optics on the market like the Tokina Vistas, but not quite as compact as something like the CP3s from Zeiss. The lenses feature a focus scale on either side of the lens, which is available in both imperial or metric. These are hand-engraved markings which are specifically crafted for each lens. This is unlike some of the other lenses at their price point, and means that marks will be incredibly accurate out of the box. They also have good spacing which focus pullers will appreciate. At this price point, servicing is also worth considering, as these lenses are a serious investment. Due to the systems that TLS are using, they can be serviced by any lens tech that knows their way around a cam-driven lens system. And the build quality internally is great. This means that these lenses should last years, as long as you have them serviced when needed. Each lens features a 16-blade rounded iris, which means the bokeh looks incredibly well formed, even when stopped down. They are available in both PL or LPL, and the mounts are shimmable. The optics inside of the Vegas are based around more modern Nikon lenses, but they are slightly tweaked and of course rehoused masterfully by TLS. These lenses are designed with floating elements, so TLS have used their dual cam system to allow the optimum optical performance while still allowing some character. From the creative shots that we've seen in-house, as well as the shots that have been kindly provided to us by Michael and Brendan from 16 ounce, who shot this reel for TLS using the Vegas, you can see this nice balance of sharpness and character. Let's take a look at a few shots. Let us know what you think of the footage down in the comments below. When it comes to coverage, the Vegas will have no trouble covering most digital full-frame sensors, with each lens not having any hard vignette, even on the likes of the V-RAPTOR or LF. This is due to the 46.3mm image circle across each lens. Across the focal lengths, the wider ones do have the most vignetting when compared to the longer focal lengths, but they perform well considering their speed. If you want to see exactly how they perform on your camera in your favourite format, head over to our lens coverage and camera comparison tool over on our website. Link to that is in the description below. Let's take a look at the bokeh performance of the Vegas. For these tests, we shot each lens wide open, then at T2, 2.8, 4 and 5.6. Using the Sony VENICE's built-in ND to adjust for the differences in exposure. Starting with the 24mm, we can see that the overall shape is good, but there is some cat's eye bokeh towards the corners of the frame wide open. You can also see green aberration outlining out of focus highlights when they are beyond our point of focus. And if we then pull focus towards infinity, so the out of focus source is before our point of focus, we can see that aberration changes to a more reddy pink. This is consistent across the set of lenses, though some lenses do handle the level of aberration and shape better than others. The 24mm has this aberration all the way down to T5.6. The shape is good when stopped down across each lens due to the 16-bladed iris. Throughout the set, we can see that each lens has a very defined edge to the out of focus highlights. This edge definition looks to get slightly more defined from T2.8 onwards. With some of the wider focal lengths, the shape can get a bit weird of the out of focus highlights when they are before the point of focus. The 24mm also has some texture to these highlights, and throughout the set, the level of texture changes from focal length to focal length. The 35mm has slightly more cat's eye shaped bokeh across the frame, but this gets better at T2.8, and it also has slightly less texture than the 24mm. The 50mm performs similarly to the 35mm, but has slightly more cat's eye shaped bokeh, with it again getting better at around T2.8. It also looks to have less CA around the out of focus highlight at T2.8 than the two previous lenses, and it also has less texture than them too. The 58mm has the most cat's eye shaped bokeh so far, though CA is gone from T2.8 onwards, and it does have some texture to it when compared to the previous lenses. The 85mm has some of the heaviest CA out of the bunch, but less texture to it again. The 105mm is one of the cleaner focal lengths out of the bunch, and the 135mm has more CA than the 105mm, but similar shape and edge definition characteristics. Overall, it's impressive how well matched the bokeh looks across the set, and the colour as well. Each lens has very similar character to them, though some are cleaner than others. However, shape, edge definition and texture are all so close that you'll be able to cut between them with no worries about differences in performance. And if you want the cleanest bokeh possible, all you have to do is stop down a little bit on pretty much all of the lenses. Flare is an incredibly subjective thing, and the Vegas definitely fall more into the arty side of flaring than well controlled. But really, cinematographers don't want boring, well controlled flares. They want lenses that flare uniquely and nicely to them. The Vegas are pretty consistent across their focal lengths, but you can see some changes in colour across some of the focal lengths. I don't want to put the full tests here because it may drag on a little bit, so if you want to see full uncut examples of the flare tests, I've put a link to our video of them on our Vimeo in the description below. For our sharpness and CA test, we shot our regular focus chart with our Sony VENICE. Each lens was shot wide open, then at T2, 2.8, 4 and 5.6. We will cram as many shots as we can here into the video, but for full tests again, they're on our Vimeo, link in the description below. The 24mm wide open does suffer from some slight pink CA in the centre of frame. In the corners we can see quite a bit of resolution drop off and CA compared to the centre. As we stop down though, we can see improvements in both of these areas. T2.8 looks to be where the lens bites up in the corners and the centre, though T4 and 5.6 of course look better. The 35mm has good performance in the centre of the frame with only a little bit of CA and decent resolving power. It has a similar fall off of performance in the corners of the frame to the 24mm. At T2.8 it bites up in the centre again and the corners get good at around T4. With the 50mm wide open, we can see the blacks on the Siemens star in the centre of our chart are raised with a blue tint. Overall contrast and resolving power is improved when stopped down to T2, with it really biting up in the centre around T2.8. There is fall off in the corners, especially wide open, but this is improved when stopped down. There is a big difference though between T5.6 and wide open with this lens. The 58mm is a pretty similar story to the 50mm, but not quite as bad wide open. It looks better at T2 than the 50mm does. Corners look better too with less CA and more resolving power. As we saw in our bokeh test, the 85mm has the most CA wide open of all of the focal lengths, but it does resolve well wide open. From T2.8, CA is better controlled with good resolving power again. It's a similar story in the corner of frames to how it behaves in the centre. The 105mm is one of the softer focal lengths when wide open. It has good performance at T2.8 though. Corners perform similarly to the centre. The 135mm is again one of the softer and more CA heavy wide open across its frame. CA is present in the middle of the frame down to T4, and this goes at around T5.6, where it does look good. Corners are good as well at 5.6. So in conclusion, the lenses all resolve really well, and it looks like they've been tuned to have fall off in the corners, which isn't surprising with this kind of optic. This is something that people will like, and if you don't want soft corners, all you have to do is stop down and you'll have good corner-to-corner sharpness. When it comes to distortion, each lens performs slightly differently. However, the set as a whole behaves really well. You can see some barrel with the wider focal lengths and some pin cushion at the more telly end, especially the 135, but all things considered, they perform great and you shouldn't see any noticeable distortion while recording normal scenarios. With the Vegas featuring donor optics from a photographic background, it's safe to assume that they would suffer from some breathing, and that is the case. However, the severity does change across the different focal lengths. The 24, 35, 85 and 135 are the better performers out of the bunch, though some breathing is still visible on them. The 50, 58 and 105 are the ones that suffer from much more pronounced movement. The 58mm looks to perform slightly better than the 50 in this regard, and the 105 looks to suffer from the worst out of the bunch. The Vegas are in the middle of the cinema lens market. They are roughly £6,750 excluding VAT, depending on the focal length, and you may be thinking, that's expensive for a set of lenses that use donor Nikon glass. But what you've got to consider is all of the work that has gone into creating this set. Not only are the housings superbly crafted, but they are also incredibly consistent. You've then got to factor in the time taken to source and match a set of these lenses that are used in the rehousing process, then the process itself, which can take hours of time, and lots of money buying lenses from the used market, which is a massive can of worms. With all of the extra work in mind and how good the housings are, their price is actually not too bad, and is comparable to other more vintage-leaning primes. The Vega set has also been designed to match the popular 80-200 T2.8 Morpheus from TLS, which is a really great full-frame cinema zoom. The TLS Vegas are an interesting set of full-frame cinema primes, full of resolving power, character and charm. Whether you like them will really come down to your personal preference, as lenses are a key way for filmmakers and cinematographers to express themselves, especially in a market so saturated with creative voices and gear. There's a reason why the vintage lens market has exploded over the past few years, and the Vegas are a great option for people wanting to invest in a set of lenses that strike a balance between vintage optics and modern mechanics, without sourcing their own lenses and getting them rehoused. Let us know what you think of the TLS Vega Cinema Primes in the comments below, and if you like the video, please give it a like and maybe even consider subscribing so you don't miss out on all of our awesome upcoming content. And thank you so much for watching.